All right, everyone, welcome back to the Coast to Coast NHL podcast. We made it, Tori. We're here, episode 50, second round of the 2021 playoffs. We thought NHL might never come back with COVID. We thought lots of other things might never happen. They happened, and here we are. That's all I got.
Here we are. Here we are.
It's been
Yeah, it's been crazy.
it's been a
This
crazy few
playoffs.
days. Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
It has,
There's
and
been so many things to talk about, so many different variations of things to talk about, whether it's good, bad, joyful, pain, whatever, right? So, I guess best place to start is what's freshest. I don't think, checking my phone now quickly, I don't think they've announced yet. Have they, Mark Scheifele, the
no, they
penalty
haven't.
for
I
him?
looked right
Okay.
before we came on here. They hadn't. There's a couple other ones, a couple other suspensions too that came out this week. But let's focus on, like you said, the most recent. The empty net hit. It hit the Twitterverse at least pretty strong. Had a lot of other chat, lots the water cooler talk, I guess, around the hockey world today was that hit that he laid out.
Mhm.
9 seconds of a game, empty net. He's rushing back to try to stop a puck. Guy going around the net, reaches, little stretchy, head downy kind of situation. A lot of people up in arms.
There's also, if you watch the hit in slow-mo, I always look for two things. One, is there one point of contact, or two, is there multiple points of contact, in the sense that you can see him obviously get hit. It doesn't appear he hits his head off of Scheifele, but it does appear he gets the whiplash part of
Yeah,
stuff at the top. For me, it's when he falls down, he smashes his head. I think he's already out, but he smashes his head off the ice. So there's 2 points of contact. So there could almost be two concussions in a sense, or it
yeah,
could be a whiplash and a concussion injury that happened in the two separate parts of the situation. So as much as it sucks when people, if it's reckless, sure, but when people hit their head off things and things happen, it's not necessarily the hitter's fault. Again, unless it's reckless.
yeah.
We saw one example of that was, what was it, Boston? What's his name? Big tough defenseman, McElrath, was it, or something? Or who? I can't remember his name. He got hit.
I don't know what you're
Um,
talking about.
no, it's not McElrath though. He used to play for the Leafs. He's a big, tall guy. I can't remember. He got traded from Nashville to Boston. Tenorti. Was it Tenorti? When he was hit by now I can't remember, but was it Wilson earlier on? The charging call that wasn't a charge. It was the
Oh,
first ever penalty for um, crap. No, I'm not prepared for it. First ever penalty for charging when he didn't leave his feet, I think is what they defined it as. But anyways, to circle back to Scheifele, that's what they're defining it as, is a charge,
yeah.
which
Makes sense to
seems to
me.
me it does, but it seems like charge is becoming the, kind of blanket penalty these days
Well,
to cover certain
for me,
things.
charging has always been you take more than a few steps to clobber a guy, you're charging. Scheifele
Yeah.
had full speed going the full length of the ice. Sure, the circumstances really warranted it. He was just trying to back check, but he hit him. Really, I didn't look at the replay, like counting back how many strides he took. He probably took like 15.
Yeah, but can you tell me how many of those strides he took for the purpose of back check versus the purpose of hitting a guy?
No, it was all one fluid motion almost.
So that's why I have a hard time defining it as a bad hit. Like, it's not it. The best quote I think I heard was that it was a useless hit. It really was. It wasn't required.
Yeah,
But at the same time, do I think it was the stupidest thing he anyone's done? I shouldn't say him, but anyone's done? No, I don't.
no, yeah,
The other thing people have to think about as well is that Scheifele, I haven't heard anybody talk about this, but Scheifele was benched last series against Edmonton because of a back check he didn't do. And it led to McDavid
Oh no,
goal,
I didn't know that.
or Draisaitl goal or whatever, but he got benched for almost a period, along with Dubois another period because they weren't sticking to their assignments. So if you're Dubois and you're like, "Okay, I can dog this or I can hustle back," you're gonna default to hustle back because you've already had that conversation with your coach of,
Yeah,
"Hey,
that
coach, I'm
makes
not
sense. I
gonna
didn't know.
lollygag."
No, hadn't heard that anyone talk about that.
Mhm.
I didn't know that happened.
Yes. So there's that angle as well. So if you're the coach or if you're looking at Scheifele, you don't want him to lollygag. You want him to hustle back. Where it gets to the gray area for me is obviously once he gets close, you can see that he disengages from trying to play the puck and
Yeah,
engages in trying to play the body. And that for me is the only thing that gives a sense of bad or sense of negativity is just because
Mm-hmm.
he could have played the puck and prevented the goal, but he chose to throw the body, assuming the game was over anyways. But is that within the rules? Nobody says you can't hit the guy. Like the puck wasn't in the net yet. It was about to be, but it wasn't
No,
yet.
for
So
sure.
within the rules of the rule book, should be fine, I
Yeah, and I
think.
think compounding this entire issue in itself is the Montreal player. It's Evans, right? That's who.
Evans.
Evans,
Yeah.
right? He has a history as well of concussion and head injuries, from what I gathered.
Second time he's been stretchered off the ice due to a head injury. First was in
Yeah,
NCAA.
so that's going to compound the whole issue here as well. I know we talked about it. What do you think? What do you think he's going to get for games?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I'm so confused on suspension these days. If I had to put a ton of money on it, I would be so nervous. If I'm just picking for fun, I think he gets one, maybe two. I think he deserves anywhere from a fine to 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Anything more, I think, is something I'd like an explanation on,
I don't
specifically
think
on
he'll
what we've
get
seen
more,
happen
and
lately.
strictly because I don't think they want him out for the series. Like
Yeah.
I think the NHL, that like at the end of the day, they're writing a script. They're trying to set up the storyline, and they need him at least one game in this series. And somehow
Yeah.
Montreal gets up 3-0, he'll be back.
And doesn't sound like Winnipeg's going to have Stastny for the next couple of games. So if they get, let's say, 2 games for Scheifele, they're not going to have two of their top 3 centers,
Which is a
considering
big part
Dubois
of
as the center.
their strength, for
Yeah.
sure.
And if you want to look at how Montreal shut down Toronto had better centers at the time that they lost versus what Winnipeg would have if they didn't have those 2 guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that would change the balance entirely in that series if he gets more than 1 game. So we'll see. And it's interesting that Montreal said that basically, NHL, you got to take care of this or we're going to do it. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's it was pretty funny when I saw that too. I was just like, is that a finable offense? Sometimes it is, right?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. See.
We'll see.
I don't know.
Where do you think the rest of the series? Montreal jumping out to a 1-0 lead here after the big Game 7 win. Now they're 4 in a row. They have a hot goalie that can pretty much win games on any given night.
Yeah.
And now we got Winnipeg with these holes now for at least a couple of games.
Well, with that whole dream thing that I talked about when I kind of saw Montreal go deep in the playoffs,
Yeah.
I kind of referenced at the time saying that they're almost a team of destiny. With what's going on so far, if you had to categorize any team in the playoffs so far, Montreal would be that destiny team. They're the worst team. They're playing the best. They're getting the most fortunate situations. Like, if Tavares didn't get knocked out, they wouldn't have beat the Leafs. Just hands down, I don't think they would have had a chance. It would have been over in 5.
Yeah.
Everything that happened after it, it was just the stars aligning. All the stars are aligning for the Habs right now. And if this suspension happens, this is something for them to gel around, which makes me even more mad as a Leaf fan because the Leafs couldn't rally around JT, but then now we can watch the Habs rally around Evans. And no disrespect to Evans or anything in this situation, but he's not your team captain. He's not been around the league for a long time.
Yeah.
He's not like a family man. He's not basically like the dad of the group. So like it's just kind of unfortunate, but you can see a team probably come together over something like this.
Yeah, and I think
I just
Montreal is
destiny, man.
not too far behind, like on paper and everything, behind Winnipeg coming into this series. And now if they're missing Scheifele, and I'm giving the edge to Montreal at this point. It's hard not.
That's why
to.
I think it's going to be a short series because if he gets 2 games, I think Montreal takes both of those. Then it's 3-0. Maybe Winnipeg gets 1, but
It's 2-1.
I mean, at that point, it doesn't look very good for them, right? Especially with Montreal playing like they
and
are,
they have the
playing
home
for
ice
their
advantage.
lives for so long already. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be tough, but I think what happens, I think he gets 2 games.
Yeah, that was what I guessed as well. While we're on the topic, then Kadri's suspension upheld 8 games, so he's basically going to miss this entire series. Part of Colorado doesn't want to keep winning, so they can serve a couple more games and let Vegas back into this series, hopefully, because after last night overtime loss for Vegas, they're down 0-2. It's going to be very, very steep hill to climb, I think, at this point. And
Yeah.
as much as I have them in our picks right now, winning in 7 still, I don't know how much I can actually believe that, but
Especially if you want to talk about that phantom penalty call that they had in overtime. I heard them talking about it on the radio, and full disclosure, I didn't see it, so I didn't really
it
care.
wasn't
Um,
necessarily a phantom call. It was considering the whole narrative that we always talk about playoffs being a little tighter on the whistle. This
yeah.
was a loose, very loose regular season kind of penalty. Like,
Yeah, I didn't see any penalties like that in the Montreal Toronto series, so why would you call that in the Vegas? Not that I'm saying that's the bar, but I'm saying like
mhm.
it should be
the
consistent,
game, the
right?
game, the game itself had some penalties throughout it. It was pretty even. I bet you if I look back, it's probably probably had the same amount of power plays. But just given
Yeah.
that exact moment, Vegas had already come back from being down after that huge loss in game one where they got blasted, and
Mm.
then they get this
In
just
overtime.
in overtime against not even arguably at this point the best power play in the NHL.
Yeah.
Um, Good luck.
More times than not, you're giving something
Give
up.
them
So
2 minutes. They're gonna score half the time. Like,
or have at least one or two good chances that are on you to make sure they don't
yeah,
go in, which
exactly.
sometimes you don't have control over. But yeah, I thought it was soft. I thought it was terrible. I would have been irate if I was a Vegas fan.
I
Um,
still don't quite understand why they went to Leonard in game one. I don't. Uh, at the same time, maybe Pete DeBoer knew his team wasn't ready for that match, and just because one thing I didn't take into account going into game one because I thought Vegas would be able to carry over game seven into game one, but them coming out of that game seven and then flying to Colorado, being in the Mile High,
mhm,
I forget that adjustment in athletics can be significant. So I think
mhm,
that played a role in their fatigue because game one they were flat, they were super flat, and they wasn't until game two that they started coming out. But
mhm.
I think it's too late now. It might be too late giving Colorado a 2 game spot. But we talked about it before. You're not really out of it until you lose at home, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah. So the next two are huge, but
yep,
I don't know. Colorado seems to be on a whole nother level right now, and Grubauer is even clicking too. As
yep.
long as there's no injuries or anything, with them getting Kadri back in a little bit, if they get that far, I think they're clearly the odds-on favorite now.
And watching McKinnon makes you feel sorry for McDavid because McKinnon actually has everything around him.
But
He,
you do recall a few years ago, McKinnon had a terrible season because he couldn't figure stuff out. He didn't
yeah,
have that much support, right? So I mean, things did fall more into place. I will say Colorado made a bunch of really good trades,
yeah.
mostly because they couldn't keep certain guys around. But that's what you got to do as a manager, right? So
Good
you got to
point.
make the right
Good
moves at the right
point.
time. So,
So,
but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't like what's up for Vegas, but
Yeah, the
in
best.
terms of sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the best thing that might have happened is getting Ryan Reeves suspended. That he doesn't have to play right now. So, for 2 games.
Could be. And it
Yeah,
could show that that type of player is even further out of what's required these days. Like you look at guys like him or Kyle Clifford or some of these, even Wayne Simmons to a certain extent. Like a lot of these guys, I think we're
yeah,
within 2 seasons of them basically being out of the league. I don't think you're going to
yeah.
need them.
I would see
Which is
that.
going to be worse for guys like Tom Wilson. He's going to be able to run amok even more. But
Tom Wilson at
what can you do?
least has some some scoring talent to fall back on, unlike
I'm
Reeves.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's not a lot of other people that also have
Oh,
talent that you could
yeah,
roster on a night to night basis. Like, sure, you could bring a big boy in to make sure Wilson doesn't do anything stupid, but then that puts you at the disadvantage off the get go, right?
yeah,
There's not going to be very many teams who can be like, oh, I can match you with that and just be a normal night. So it's going to be crazy to see what happens there. But let's say with the lotto draft,
yeah,
finally things come up Buffalo's way. They win the lottery draft
yeah. Again,
again.
yeah.
And
Uh,
Seattle. I was really rooting for Seattle when it was Seattle and Buffalo. I'm not gonna lie. I was really hoping Seattle came up with the pick, but all good. Buffalo. Actually, I shouldn't say they deserve it. They don't deserve it.
they need it. How about that? They need
Let
it.
me change that. Their fans deserve it, and their fans need it. Their management and the way they're doing things, they don't deserve
Yeah,
good. But that's not fair to penalize their fans with that.
yeah. At least that.
Specifically, people
Yeah,
like Jesse who give a shit.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the upcoming expansion. Speaking about Seattle, there's a bit more clarity now after the draft. The actual expansion draft itself is coming up on July 21st. So that's the date they
Wow.
also want to have the playoffs concluded by.
July
So
21st. Okay.
yeah, and playoffs will be concluded by the 15th. So we have, within 2 months here, we're gonna know a lot more and basically be right into free agency, right? 30 days from now, we'd be past for the day of free agency. So a month from now, we're going to know what the expansion team looks like and any kind of free agents and trades. Maybe not all the trades and signings, but some
Yeah.
of them 2 days into free
That'll be
agency.
it.
So
We're gonna be bumping on this podcast. We're gonna be
yeah, it's
firing.
going to be a lot of
firing.
content.
Yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you watch any of the IIHF hockey tournament that's started or going on right now?
No, not with the
Either.
Not with playoffs going and baseball going. Trying to definitely stay. Normally, I have trouble focusing when it gets later in NHL playoffs, especially if my team gets knocked out. But I want to be in there in the end. I think it's going to be a very, very tight playoff. I actually switched my opinion on one of the series. I flopped, and then flipped back again. I don't know if you caught that. I'm believing in the Islanders again.
I did notice that.
Yeah, I got Islanders after they bounced back in game 2. I'm like, okay, they went to Varlamov. They bounced back in game 2. I've been short on Boston all year. I just can't get behind them, and I'm going back. I'm going with my original gut, so I'm bailing out on Boston after jumping on their ship. So call me Mr. Bandwagon. I'm flip-flopping like a pancake over here, but I got Islanders in 7 is my new updated pick on
That's
that.
a new pick.
Yeah.
See, I still got 7 games, but I got to go into Boston. Just because I think when it comes down to it, you can probably wash off the goalies because I would assume Sorokin or Varlamov will be able to have a good game. I'd have more confidence in Sorokin personally. But if Rask has one of those games that Rask can do, then you're just not winning that game. That's what those good goalies can do to you, right?
Yep.
Especially in game 7s. And then you add in that power play and whatnot. I feel like New York Islanders can definitely win, but I feel like they're definitely not the favorite. I feel like Boston's going to come through, but I do agree with you, the 7 games.
All right. Part of me thinks there's going to be that Destiny rematch between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Islanders from last year. So that's what I'm trying to throw that into the universe. Tampa is out to a nice 2-0 lead over Carolina. I think they'll be able to close it out from here on out. Carolina might pick a couple up along the way, but I don't know. Overall, Tampa is just hard to match.
I got Tampa in 5. I got a lot of short series or shortest.
I had them in 6 from the beginning, so I'm going to keep it that way.
Yeah, I had 6. I'm changing it to 5 because Carolina didn't handle Nashville as well as I assumed they would.
Yeah.
And Tampa's just a different beast, and I just don't think Carolina can keep up with in every component. Tampa's, well, maybe not depth of quality defensemen, but everything else they pretty much have the check mark on, right?
Yeah.
In comparison, so maybe they win 1, maybe they win 2. I don't think they push it to 7, but I just don't think they can keep up. So you can definitely agree Tampa, but we'll see how many games. And you kind of touched on a little bit with the Vegas-Colorado series. I know you're kind of cheering for Vegas, but what do you have? You still think they're going to pull through, or?
Yeah, they're taking it in 7. It's gonna be a comeback. They're gonna win both at home. Then they're gonna steal one in Colorado, so they're gonna win the next 3.
I like that. And it's funny because if anyone's going to do something like that, I think it could be Vegas, not necessarily because they're playing Carolina or Colorado, but just because last year they were up 3-1 on who was it? Don't remember, and they lost. Vancouver, and they lost.
No, they lost to Dallas last year, but they got basically swept.
Yeah, so whoever it was that beat them, they were up 3-1 because they're in the 3-1 club. I saw in the photo Vegas and Toronto are the only hockey teams in the 3-1 club.
Oh, well, Vegas lost when they were up 3-1 to the San Jose Sharks a couple years ago.
Oh, okay, so that was them then. Okay. Yeah, so I think that a lot of the similar bodies are same bodies that, they're on the other side, so it's a learning moment, right?
Yep.
So
Yep, for sure.
Possible, but I still think Colorado could just run through the whole league just easily, I think.
Yeah, especially if they go to the next round and they get Montreal.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna get the lowest seed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's actually true or not. It's what I'm led to believe.
Nonsense on here, so. But I wouldn't mind seeing a Tampa Bay Lightning Colorado Avalanche final. That would be a very nice final.
That's what I have as the final at this point because I actually do think Montreal is going to get through Winnipeg. We didn't really get there yet, but well, I guess we touched on a couple components.
We've touched all the series now.
I guess that's true, yeah. So, I mean, I do think Montreal is going to win 4-1. I think it's going to be a short series. Montreal is just, I mean, Winnipeg climbed the mountain of the Oilers, right? And then they kind of took the breath, being like, "We did it. Let's take a breath and get healthy." And then they're not quite healthy. The suspension happens. Montreal has been playing for their lives now for over a week, and I just think unless Montreal runs out of gas, which they might one game, where they just put up a dud. Could be next game, to be honest. But
game 2 is going to be very pivotal in that series. If Winnipeg can come in there with a Scheifele suspension and win, I think we're going.
It could change the series.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a Hellebuck, right? But usually you say Hellebuck's got to steal the series. Well, now he's facing a goalie that can outplay him, right? So that's something that they're not really used to because there's not many goalies that you could say that about around the league, right? So I don't know if it's a good matchup necessarily for them because Winnipeg, they have a couple, finishers and whatnot, but they're not really a scoring team, right? So I don't think they're going to be able to get it done. I think that they're just.
Winnipeg went out the play-in rounds last year, didn't they? Or they played Calgary?
I think so, yeah.
Right?
I think so, yeah.
I can't recall, actually.
I think they beat Calgary and lost to Vegas, I want to say.
No,
I don't know if that's true or not.
Play them.
Must have been a couple of years ago then.
I'm trying to remember because, Montreal, they got past the play-in last year, and then they...
Yeah, Montreal beat Pittsburgh.
Yeah, then now they're in that essentially they're even further than that. So
yeah,
this new ground was great either way for them.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, for me, I do have the final four: Montreal, Colorado, Tampa, Boston. So I guess you'd have what? Montreal, Vegas, Tampa, and Islanders. So you'd have Montreal versus Vegas and Tampa versus Islanders, and you'd have Vegas and Tampa in the final.
No, Vegas and Islanders.
You're on the Islander train already. You ripped them last week, and now you're on them. Okay, sounds good.
No sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Calgary Flames of the playoffs are now the New York Islanders.
Seriously, yeah. I could be cursing them beyond belief, but I don't know. I feel like they're going to take a step forward this year and just catch everyone off guard because they made the conference finals last year, and they'll get their rematch, and I don't know. I think it can be done.
I should have known better is what I was going to say. When you came on last week and you're like, oh, at least we're going to do it. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good. Alex is confident. Should have known better. I should have known. And once you said, yeah, Toronto's definitely winning, I should have known it's already over.
Yeah, it's probably bad timing when I start rooting for the Leafs. It can't be good.
Yeah, so far you're a curse for a lot of teams that aren't your own.
Yep, that's so. Do you want to touch on the Leafs land a little bit? How things have changed since Game 7? Or just, it is what it is, they're garbage?
It's difficult for me because, I already was kind of over the emotional stuff after the whole JT thing happened. I kind of had my whole freak out after Game 1, and I kind of tuned out a little bit because deep down inside, I knew that even if they beat Montreal, I didn't think that they could actually beat Winnipeg. So I knew that we were within, 6 or 8 games of the Leafs being out anyways. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference in Game 6 or 7 or Game 4 or 5 of the next series? It's all kind of the same shit, even though it would have been nice to win a series. That being said, regular season means nothing. So it's going to be hard for me as a fan and probably a lot of other fans to sit down and actually watch regular season. Yes, opening night, a lot of people will probably be there. I may be there, but I'll probably be doing other shit, multitasking, not like in the past where it's like, I sit down for the anthem and I'm ready to go and I know the starting lineup and I've done all my research. I'm not there.
I've stopped being that kind of fan for a long time. Like every once, I don't watch every single Vegas game. I try to watch as much as I can. I root for them like crazy, but I miss a period here and there. Like I often miss the first goal of a game. Like it's just how it is. I
have a kid coming up too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not going to have as much time to be able to watch hockey. Maybe on replay or recaps or. I like a lot of the times where they recap the game or condense the game.
Yeah.
Because then you can kind of watch a game in like 40 minutes or whatever.
That's my favorite thing about the MLB package is that it has every game within a 5-minute version of the game.
That's good.
Yeah,
You just get the recap of all the important stuff. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, with the Leafland, I don't think anything's going to change this year. I do think basically everyone's been given they're kicking down the can down the road one more year. I think some of the old guys that we don't want back will want to come back as they feel there's unfinished business. I wouldn't be surprised to see guys like Spezza and Simmons come back, but not be guaranteed spots on the roster, be guys on the roster or the next guy's in when there's an injury or something like that. The
Yeah.
other thing is the Leafs have a few bodies that are out of waiver eligibility. So they're going to have about 7 more bodies from the minors, including guys like Adam Brooks and whatnot that showed flashes of valuable or something that can give you some sort of something at a cheaper cap amount. So it'll be interesting to see a lot of the decisions that they do make. They have a lot of the fat on the outside of the roster in the Engvalls, the Kerfoots, the Halls, whatever, where they, 1.5, 2 million, whatever here and there. I think that what they might do or what you might see is that they cut down the fat and try to get some fresh bodies in there for some young bodies and maybe guys that won't act the same
Yeah.
in certain situations. The one bad thing I've heard that annoys me is the whole rumor. I don't know if you heard this about how Mitch Marner was unwilling to change his spot on the power play. Apparently, the Leafs. This is all rumor. There's been no confirmation, but they say he didn't want to be on the goal line because he was getting abused too much,
Hmm.
and he didn't want to get injuries and miss games and miss opportunities for points and stuff like that because he's getting injured. He'd rather be at the top. And I mean, something like that isn't usually just randomly started by a fan. That's pretty specific, right?
Yeah.
And then you watch the fact that the power play never changed all year, and you're like, "Okay, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing but expecting different results?" And they literally just did the same thing over and over and over again. So as a fan, you're like, maybe it's true because we didn't see any changes. Why was there no change? Why didn't we see a change of when it clearly didn't work for so long? So as a fan, it's easy to believe, oh, well, if there's this rumor saying that he didn't want to change, that makes sense why they didn't change anything. And if that's the case, then we're not on board with that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just some stuff coming out like that that's a bit concerning. There's some quotes from Marner and Matthews that are a bit concerning, basically summarizing basically them saying that they don't think that they had a bad series. It's just they got unlucky. And it's kind of unfortunate for fans because, yes, that may be true, but we don't want to hear that you got unlucky. We want to hear what you're going to do to make sure you don't get unlucky next year after you've got unlucky for 3 years in a row now. Like, are we going to say this again next year? Because if you're going to say the same shit, especially the stuff like Marner's been saying, we've been unprepared, we don't come to the rink prepared, all this shit. You're a veteran now. You've been in the league for a while. Like
You should be prepared by now. This is what your
when the
fifth
puck
time
drops.
in the playoffs. Yeah.
But not even then. How long have you been playing hockey games? You know when the puck drops. You know when the game starts. It doesn't start 10 minutes in. It doesn't start 5 shifts in. It doesn't start after there's a big hit. It doesn't start after your favorite song gets played on the PA. Like it starts at 20 minutes. So I just don't understand why at multiple years in a row now they're saying they're not prepared and ready to go. Like what and then you talk about the coach problem and stuff. It's just kind of like how it's not on the coach to make sure his players are ready to go in time. It's not on the coach. And if players can't be ready to go on time, then they can't be on your team because you can't have them giving up 2 goals in the first 10 minutes and then chasing the rest of the game and having to take chances, which just kill you,
Yep.
right? And your energy. So I don't know. It's so many different elements. It's tough for me as a Leaf fan with everything. They're not going to change the coach. They're not going to keep burning money by firing people and bringing in new people.
Yeah. This is the Leafs as
Basically,
we know it now. For now.
yeah, I won't be invested until we see what happens next year, assuming they make the playoffs back in their normal division, which again is another negative thing because they're in a tougher division. Tampa's not getting any worse. Florida's getting better. Boston's there. Ottawa's up and coming. Detroit's on their
Montreal's
way,
proven that they're on their way.
right? So, or at least a playoff team. They just need to get in there, right?
Wow.
Or sorry, they're a playoff built
What
team. They just need to
happens
get in
if
there. So
if the Leafs miss next year?
that's what I'm saying. Is like if we get there.
Wow.
I am worried that we get to a point of no return for a lot of fans. Like, I think there's a lot of fans that are so old that they're kind of just like, been here for 30 years anyways. What's another few more years? Like, I'm already in it now. But like the newer fans or like the people that are just grasping hockey now and becoming fans of the sport, the Leafs are not in the top half of the league of, that's my team. I want to be associated with that team. We
Yeah.
all know how shitty,
They're the laughing
schools can
stock of
be.
the
And
NHL,
yeah,
really. The
exactly.
fans
And we
are.
know how cruel kids can be and stuff at school. So like you wear a Leafs hat or a Leafs backpack or something, you're gonna get ridiculed. So even though if you are a fan, you might hide it, right?
Yeah,
So like
fair.
it's just I don't know, it's not a good thing. And I know I questioned you, I posed the question to you today. In the next calendar year, who has more optimism? Buffalo Sabres fan or Toronto Maple Leafs fans?
Oh, I didn't see you pose that
Oh,
to
I
me.
sent him as yeah.
I would say more optimism on Leafs.
Who has more to lose?
I don't know if like probably pretty equal because like the Leafs fans have already lost. They've lost enough. Like they can't lose too much more than they're already at.
See, I was gonna say that for Buffalo. Buffalo
Well,
can't get any
I
worse.
think
Toronto can.
Buffalo can get worse. Eichel leaving,
I
getting worse.
guess.
It's
Okay.
it's possible,
Okay.
and those are the rumors. Whereas the rumors of Toronto is everything's staying together. So
For one more year.
yeah,
And again, like you insinuated, what if they miss the playoffs? None of their players are worth anything. They have a new manager who's now gonna have to come in and establish himself. They're gonna have to get a new coach. Like you're basically by kicking the can down the road this offseason, you're basically kicking it 3 years. Whatever you commit to at the end of this offseason is basically what you're locked into for the next 3 seasons. So if it doesn't work next season and people get fired, we still have to wait 2 seasons to start tearing things down to rebuild it. And at that point, you're going to have guys like Matthews who are 1 year away from free agency,
and he's
or
going back
guys
to
like Riley.
Arizona.
That's what everyone's talking about. I just don't think Arizona is going to be an actual team by the time that's a
Oh, he might save them.
topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Well, that could be the thing, right? He could literally be the thing that saves them. But
Yeah. Who
I'm
knows?
deep down as a Leaf fan, I hope Arizona's gone by then, so that way he has nowhere to go. But something it's a seed there.
Yeah, it's fun. It's gonna be fun watching it. I think that's the most exciting is just watching the circus unfold and seeing what animals are riding what tricycles on this tightrope today, and who's gonna fall, who's gonna pull it off. Like that's half the fun of this all this game. So.
Magical circus.
Yep, you know me. But yeah, that's it for me on the NHL topics.
I think so for me as well.
Awesome. I want to get out there, watch my Islanders, watch some baseball. We got some Cubs versus Giants tonight, which is going to be awesome.
Nice.
I know. But yeah, it's my
Wicked,
life.
man.
All right, take care, man. Take care.
Enjoy. See ya.
Bye.